we're doing another Q&A today because why not? So I went to the coffee shop to study for math, right? Because I really need to be studying for math because I have a math test tomorrow and I don't really know any of the concepts. So I went to the coffee shop, I ran into a friend, I was like chatting up with her for like a good 20 minutes. So she left and then I was like there and I did math. Obviously I did some of the delta math, but the problem is that I did the part that I was already confident in, the part that I already knew how to do, and I didn't study the part that I didn't know how to do. And then I tried to lock in and I just couldn't. And I was like, you know what I really want to do right now? I want to go make a YouTube video. So we're gonna study when we get home. Okay, the first question is, what is a chaosis? And this is a good question. This is a good question. You know, what is a chaosis? What is the son of chaosis? Who is chaosis? What is a chaosis? Chaosis is like pretty much the devil. Chaosis technically isn't as evil as the devil in a sense of like there's the law of polarity. And I focus on that a lot in my novel. And I also derive from Roman mythology. So you have Chaosis and you have Seraphina. And then that's kind of where this yin and yang comes in. The darkness, the good, death, light, the feminine, the masculine. Chaosis is just like a god in the book. Oh my god, people from my school are showing up, guys. I hate this. I hate these games. When is The Son of Chaosis coming out? I want to have it done by December. Done as in I want the draft that I'm working on right now to be fully edited and precise. And then once I'm done with it, I hope to have it published a year after. How do you come up with kingdom names? I spoke a little bit about this on my other YouTube video. I remember I was looking at kingdom names on Pinterest and I would take the beginning of the word and switch it with like the end of a different word that I liked. Elderlin was from Pinterest, Arsania was from Pinterest, Wendison was from Pinterest. I used to write a lot of fantasy books when I was little. I've been writing since I could write. As a writer, there's this phase that you go through where you start books and you don't finish them. You do this for a while until you finally get your groove and you're like, okay, this is how I make a book. This is how it works. When I was in that stage and I was maybe in middle school, I was like writing fantasy novel and then stop writing and then go to another fantasy novel and then stop writing and then go to another fantasy novel. And the thing that stayed consistent without all these fantasy novels was Haldoria, usually being the kingdom of like some foreign king that comes over or the kingdom that she was living in at the time or whatever it was. So Haldoria just came from my mind. I'm not really sure. Clarice's celebrity lookalike. When I was coming up with Clarice, I never really compared her to a celebrity. I compared her to my mom because my mother has red hair and freckles and green eyes and she's just stunning. She's always been stunning. She always will be stunning. My mother is just so beautiful. Clarice looks a lot like me when she's younger, and she looks like a lot like my mom when she's older. In part 2, Clarice speaks a lot about having blonde hair. Like she used to have blonde hair when she was little. That kind of grew into this like dirty blonde, strawberry blonde kind of scenario. And Hadrian mentions it a lot, him being like, your hair's changed, your hair's changed. When she comes back after being at school for 4 years, she's matured a lot. Like she's gone through this stage in your life where you are changing a lot physically and mentally. And so when she comes back, he's just knocked off his feet. It was kind of like a Swan Princess vibe in that sense, but also not really because Hadrian did favor her when she was a kid. Like they were friends. And if anything, he favors her too much when she comes back that he stays away from her. Like I said, he mentions it all the time, the fact that her hair is red. Why are people from my school showing up? Please get me out of here, please. Ah! Okay, moving on. How long are you aiming the book to be? So part 1 would be a little bit more than 120,000 words. I mean, chapters wise, it's like 70 chapters right now. Because there's a lot that happens in the book. It doesn't just start with her in Haldoria. You know, you have the build up for it. It starts with her in the carriage. She's thinking about the head injury on the back of her head, and she's praying that she doesn't look at it, or that she doesn't acknowledge it, or that she doesn't touch it, and find her fingers come slick away with blood, because she's worried that if she recognizes it, the fate will like take this opportunity of death away from her. Guys, I'm so good. It makes so much sense. She's in the carriage, right? And she's miserable. Her whole kingdom just got burnt to the ground. Her whole family just died. And you don't know this. The reader doesn't know this. All the reader got was a little glimpse of her talking with death while she was intoxicated. They're like, okay, what is happening? What is happening? She's in this carriage. She's looking out this window. She's seeing all the blurry trees go by. And she's thinking, how badly she wants to die that she is scared. She is scared to acknowledge her head injury because she's worried if she does, fate is against her and fate will take the opportunity of death away from her. And it's so good. I personally, when I'm reading a book, if it doesn't have a media res situation, or if it's not close to a media res situation in which the love interest is not introduced quite early on, or you're not automatically in some kind of conflict, I don't want to read it. So I have it now, the first scene where it's Death came to her again, and she's in this hallway and she's speaking with Death reincarnate, who she thinks is Death reincarnate. She knows the next morning she's about to board a ship and she's about to go to Haldoria and have to marry this evil king, but at least her family's gonna live, right? She can't get out of this because she's doing this to save her kingdom. She's intoxicated and she goes in this hallway and she sees this figure cloaked in black wearing this mask, and she is like asking him, like, are you gonna take me to the riverbed? Like, how are you gonna do it? Like, how are you gonna kill me? She's talking about how she used to see Death all the time. Death would appear as a little girl that looked strangely a lot like her. She would never speak, she would hum a lot. It would be like kind of this weird siren-y thing. It was like she had drowned. And Clarice has this weird fascination with not only death, but drowning specifically. Like, they are a sea kingdom, so she would go like be in the sea or be near the river, and it makes sense that she correlates death a lot with specifically drowning, because when their people die in Elderland, they don't bury them, they send them to the sea. Like, they put them in this like casket, but not really a casket. It's more hay built, and they send them off into the sea. During the war, she's still dreaming of this little girl. She often dreams of this little. It's always prominent. It's like she doesn't get any sleep. She wakes up, she's scared that the little girl is like there again. Like, she's always thinking about it. Death coming to her and taking her away, and she's waiting for it almost. Like, during this war where death is coming to her, it's more of like a fear of like, you're coming for me, like the war is gonna kill me kind of thing. Like, I think subconsciously she's thinking death is coming to her because the war is gonna kill her, and she doesn't fully want to die. Yes, that is something that she anticipates happening, but she doesn't fully want to die at this point at all, because she still holds out hope for a certain somebody, which you learn about later. But when they tell her you're getting married to Eric, and she agrees, she knows that there's no way out of this except for death. She knows that. And when they tell her, she doesn't have any more dreams about the little girl coming to her. Death literally does not show up again for her. Now that she like actively like wants to die and is willing to die, death isn't there anymore. That night before she's about to leave, and she sees him in the hallway, she's like, yes, you have come to me. And I think that it just sets the book off so well, and I do it so well, because it's like, thank God you're here, I've been waiting for you. And you find out it's not even death. It is death. I mean, yeah, Hadrian's a freaking killer, bro. He's an executioner, but it's not. Like, death is not here to save her. You're so conflicted, because it's like, he's always telling her, like, I sold my soul for you because I wanted to save you. If I didn't give you to Eric, you were gonna die. And she literally says to him, I would have rather died. I would have rather died. I was pleading for death to come to me. I thought you were going to kill me. I wanted you to kill me. I would have given myself to you on a silver platter, is what she says. And it makes sense, because at the end of that scene, she says she was offering herself to death on a silver platter. So, yeah, the book's gonna be long. Favorite scene? I like a lot of scenes. But I really, really, really love the kitchen scene between her and Mavis. You really get to see a part of Mavis that you really don't see, because, like I said, you really think that he's a villain. This guy dismisses her from the court. He wants to take her throne. He doesn't care about her. He's selfish. But then you get to hear how he feels about things, specifically about Casonia. And when you find love in somebody who you villainize, it's really, really hard to continue to see them in that light. You have to understand where he's coming from, and I think that the kitchen scene alludes to that so much. And it's a really, really good scene in that it gives you kind of Mavis and Clarice's relationship. It gives a lot of world building without being direct info dumping, which I really do like. Last and final thing that I think is really, really important in that scene is when he's talking about how he doesn't sleep, because he's constantly having dreams about Casonia dying in front of him. My storage ran out. I was yapping too much, guys. I gotta be quick. What was I talking about? He sees like her blood on his hands. And I think like later when I do make that a reality, it hurts so much worse because you can tell how scared he is about it. And the kitchen scene is really good because he keeps talking about a mistake that he made, and you're like, what mistake did he make? And then you find out later what the mistake was. Favorite part. My favorite part is probably part 2. It's very romancy and like kind of gives me like the childhood feel. You know, it's like them coming together. Like I'm writing romance back to back to back. Whereas in part 1, they're not romantic at all. They have one kiss. And then in part 3, it's more sad than anything. Part 1 is really sad. Part 3 is really sad. Part 2 is like obviously sad, like they're in the middle of a war, but it's also very, very romantic and a lot more childish. What is the hardest thing to write? Any scene that has Eric in it, or any of the rape scenes are really, really hard to write. I've cut it down so that it's only only two rape scenes that are like potent, because that was super excessive and I didn't like writing those at all. But they were really necessary to the plot because she marries this king, you know, and he's not just gonna be like, oh, hey, by the way, you don't have to consummate this marriage. Like, yeah, no. But I try not to make it as potent. Favorite chapter? Probably chapter 1. I really do like chapter 1. I spent a long time on chapter 1. Chapter 2 being when she walks into the courtroom in a bloodstained dress. I did really like that chapter. Who is the hardest character to write? Hardest character to write is Eric. I hate that guy because he's so evil. I can't understand his mind. I think every single character has a bit of me and my strengths and my weaknesses. Clarice, very much potently so. Hadrian, Mavis, all of them, I can relate to them in some instance. Eric is just so evil and crazy. I don't even know where to begin with him. It's easy to write when he's being unpredictable, but it's so cringy to read the things that he says sometimes because they just don't make sense to me. He's just weird and he's really, really hard to figure out and to write. Who is the male main character that inspired Hadrian? Any morally gray character, think of it. Boom. He's very heavily inspired by, I would say, Hades. Because the book was originally based off of Greek mythology. Clarice's name was the Roman name for Persephone, which was Proserpina, and then he was Pluto. Like he's based off of Hades. He has the black hair and the gray eyes. Like he's an executioner, you know? So, Hades. How will it end? Ooh, that's a good question. How will it end? I would love to tell you, but I guess you'll have to read it to find out. Did you base any characters on real people? Yeah, to a certain extent. Like I said, Clarice is really heavily based off of me, and I think a lot of her family dynamics are also based off of me. Like, the way that she interacts with her siblings is kind of similar to how I interact with my siblings. I think to a certain extent, yeah, her mother resembles my mother, but not really. I think I exaggerated a little bit, obviously, because it's a fantasy book. Hadrian was based off of a boy that I had a crush on back in like freshman year. He wasn't like fully based off of him, but he was like, his name kind of was, and the way that he says things like is kind of similar to like, because me and him were really good friends, and so I built that a lot into part 2 when her and Hadrian were friends. Describe your writing style in 3 words. Chaotic, repetitive, lyrical. Really lyrical, really poetic, and just all over the place. Hidden references or syllogisms. There are so many of these, I can't even recall all of them. Let me try to think. I reference death a lot. I reference death in flowers that Clarice sees. I reference death in animals that she sees. I use a lot of omens in that sense. Same with smoke. I reference smoke a lot. And the reason for this is because when you think of Hadrian, you think of smoke, because his whole thing is smoking. When she's entering Haldoria and she sees the smoke coming out of the chimney and she recalls envying cigarettes. Hadrian would constantly be smoking these cigarettes, and Clarice almost was like, why don't you give me as much attention as you give your cigarettes? And then there's another time when she's in the kitchen and she's getting alcohol off the top shelf, and it says like the smell of smoke, like she smells the smell of smoke, because in part 2 she literally was getting alcohol off the shelf and she smelled the smell of smoke, and she turns around and Hadrian's there saying, oh, are you in the habit of drinking now, Linsara? Like, she has this dream, and she remembers having this dream when she wakes up about Mavis and how she's bandaging Mavis's hand, and she's saying, you shouldn't have hit him, Mavis, and she's talking about how she can still taste smoke on her mouth. And beta readers, when they were reading this, were like, what are you talking about? Little bit of a reference to a scene in part 2 where Hadrian and Clarice may be making out. Mavis sees him and punches Hadrian in the face. I don't know. Just a hunch. And then also another reference in syllogism is sweet treats and food. When she was little, she would constantly steal sweet treats from Miss Culpepper's kitchen and run into the stables and eat them, like behind the hay bales, like secretly. And her mother would get on her for it. Everybody would get on her for it. Like, you are not allowed to be eating all these sweet treats. I reference it when she's walks into the courtroom and they had been trying to hide this meeting from her, and they all turn around and it's like deer in headlights. She compares it to a little girl standing in a kitchen with her hands behind her back, chocolate on her mouth, being like scared that she got caught. I know that I reference sweet treats a lot and like honey-eyed biscuits a lot. Apples is another one. Hadrian loves apples. When he gets locked up for burning down the stables, which is a whole nother thing in part 2, she comes down to the cell block and like in order to like make peace, she like gives him an apple and he's like, what is this for, kind of thing. And he like obviously is eating it. Talks a lot about how he tastes like citrus and smoke. She was really, really hungry and she was thinking about like all these sweet treats, and then at the end of it she was thinking about how bad she would want to have an apple, and says that she hadn't had an apple in over a year. Like, ugh, it's so good. Wine is a big one. She tastes the wine in Haldoria and she doesn't like it because it doesn't taste like Elderlin wine. Do gods influence the world directly? Yes, to a certain extent. You can sort of see them, specifically Lunaria. Clarice sees Lunaria all the time, and she will constantly see this goddess turning her head away from Clarice. Okay. There are 4 kingdoms. So you have Arsanion, Wendison, Haldoria, and Elderlin. And they are to represent the 4 different gods. There are ties between these kingdoms, like biological ties. And that's how they keep like the kingdom standing and such, through royal lines, because they believe that they're descendants of the primordials who are descendants of the gods. The gods are Tearia, Ornis, Cynthius, and Lunaria. Tearia and Cynthius are like a thing. And then Ornis and Lunaria are a thing, okay? And so Arsanion women, because they represent Ornis, are sent to Elderlin where they represent Lunaria, because they keep the ties. So Arsanion only has women and Elderlin only has men, so they get sent back and forth in order to reproduce these lines. And there's this huge war that breaks out with Arsanion because Arsanians love their daughters. Something happens in Elderlin where one of the wives goes missing, and so Arsanion says, we're done sending our women to you. So there's a huge war that breaks out and they no longer are sending the women over, and so they start picking commoner women for the royal lines until Clarice is born. That's when it becomes a problem, because Clarice is a female in this all male dominant line. And so it's like, whoa, what do we do now? Because who's the heir, who's not the heir? Like, how does this work? Because they have like a daughter now. So if these ties break, the gods will directly influence it in that they will no longer have children, pretty much. Same goes for Wendison and Haldoria. They send the woman back and forth. So Wendison only has females and Haldoria only has men. When Eric takes Clarice as his bride, somebody from Elderlin are not going to get the same result, and he doesn't get the same result. And that's one of the reasons why Clarice doesn't get pregnant by him, through him. There's a lot of reasons that she doesn't get pregnant by Eric, but one of those being the gods directly influence their lines. And I think that's the only thing that the gods directly influence. Okay, well, and then, you know, selling your soul to Chaosis. Things that happen that go against the gods tend to end up not working out in somebody's favor. How did you come up with the gods? I derived a lot from, like I said, Roman and Greek mythology, and then I always wanted the elements to be a thing. So Tearia is earth and fertility, and then Lunaria is romance and the sea and the moon, and then Cynthius is the sun and fire and destruction and war, and Ornis is like thievery and seduction and like the wind. Yeah, he's fun. Ornis is fun. But yeah, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I can't wait to do another one of these. I yapped a lot. I'm gonna have to do a lot of editing in this video. I'm out of breath. I need to go home and study for math. Okay, all right, bye. I love you guys.